Bienvenue à Asiate Imparfaite. Welcome to Imperfect Asian. Cet épisode est en anglais. I am your host, Laura Nem. In this podcast, I have conversations with other atypical Asian Canadians. Something that I told you a couple of days ago that a lot of people don't know about me, and it's not because it's embarrassing, it's just that it never comes up in conversations, okay? Is that I actually love watching action scenes. I love Michelle Yeoh.
Michelle Yeoh is the queen.
She's the queen. I even now will skip through television shows or movies just to watch the action scenes.
I don't understand why this doesn't come up in conversations more often with you. You should just stop people and hey, listen, I know this is weird, but I'm going to talk about fight choreography for 10 minutes.
I have no one to share this with.
You could just call me whenever and we'll talk about fight scenes all day.
Hey, did you see this video?
I was yeah, I'm Fred Nguyen, of course I've seen this video.
This episode's guest is Fred Nguyen Khans. Fred is 38 years old, of Vietnamese descent, born in Montreal, raised in Longueuil. He started martial arts when he was 4 years old and is a 32nd generation Shaolin disciple. Man, sounds like something from the movies, doesn't it? You're so cool, Fred. When I met Fred, he was a stuntman on a film set I was working on in Montreal. That's what he does. He's an actor and a stunt performer. He's also a really funny guy, always cracking jokes and laughing. Once in a while, he writes and directs his own action comedy short film projects. Because of my now not-so-secret love for martial arts films, I wanted to sit down with Fred and totally geek out with him over this very Asian style of cinema. We spoke about the entertainment industry, Asian role models, and self-esteem. Oh, and he likes peanut butter. So I see you as someone that's funny.
Thank you.
Fun.
I try.
Fun.
Yes, I am fun.
Super creative. Someone who takes life seriously but doesn't take himself seriously.
That is very accurate. I did not think of that myself, actually. But now that you mention it, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
I do take life seriously. I don't take situations in life as seriously as I should sometimes, but I always try to find something positive or funny about it, you know?
Have you always been like this?
I think so. I think since I was a kid, I was always the class clown. I was never good in school, academically. And I liked entertaining people. I like making people laugh. My dad is a funny guy too, also, so I think I draw from that upbringing.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. He's hilarious, but he's mean about being hilarious.
What?
He'll be mean to people as a way of thinking that it's a joke, you know? He'll roast people.
Okay, but as
a joke to him.
But it's still true.
Yes, it's still...
It hits the mark.
It's still funny, but some people, I assume, would not find it funny, you know? I've been the victim of many of his roastings, so I can confirm that sometimes it is just not funny.
Okay, so you have really low self-esteem.
Yes. I think as a lot of Asian kids do have very low self-esteem for some reason.
Mm-hmm. It's funny because you told me that being bad at school was a blessing.
Well, at the time, it was very much not a blessing, obviously. I was being compared a lot to my cousins and my sister who were very good in school. I think if I were to be good in school, I don't think I would have been the actor or the stunt performer that I am now. Mm-hmm. And I have had full-time jobs, you know, and I know that I just don't like it.
Yeah. I tried that route.
Yeah.
And I think that's why my parents leave me alone with what I do now. I made a huge effort to try it, and then I was like, oh, that's not for me. So I think that's all they want. They were just
at least you tried.
Yeah, they needed me to try.
Yeah.
And now they're okay.
Yeah, I think the same for me. Even though my mom still thinks that there's hope that I get a real job. I'm doing the quotation marks at the moment. So sometimes she'll be saying hey, your uncle needs this thing. He has this job offer or something like that. And I'm like, Mom, I can't. I have auditions and stuff.
Yeah, you know? You have a career.
Yeah, I have a career and I'm living off of my career.
Right.
Even though at the moment it's kind of weird, but you know.
You mean with COVID?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
But
yes, we are not living out of our careers right now.
No. I mean, it was already hard for an Asian performer to have, you know, a working career as an actor, and to have COVID too is damn.
Being an actor, you have to stand out, but you need to fit in as well. How is it as an Asian actor in Quebec? Have you ever thought about going to the West Coast where there's a bigger Asian community? And there's actually like a support system for Asian cinema, Asian actors.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the thought has, has come up many times. I feel like every time I think about moving, there's something here that happens that stops me from moving.
Okay.
And I know that if I just go to, for example, Toronto or Vancouver, I can always come back if I need to. But I just really like the Montreal bagels. And the julep, the orange julep.
No, but seriously,
I obviously didn't answer your question at all, right? What was your question again?
Like, how is it being a Quebec actor?
Right. Well, in Quebec is unique in the way that there's also French productions. And in the French productions, a lot of the times there's the writing for Asian characters is not very suited for Asian people, really. It's more like, okay, this is what the idea of an Asian character is, and I'm going to write it this way, usually. At least that's the experience that I've had so far. And so when you go in on the first day of a shoot, for example, I would just play it the way that I thought I was going to, how I would play it. And then I would get notes to change the way I speak or my mannerisms a little bit.
Right.
And, I'm not at the level where, and I'm not proud to say this, but I wasn't, strong enough to really speak out about that and stand my ground.
Right.
Or even in my mind, it was just like, oh, that's the director. Sure, I'll just, also because I want to work.
Yeah, exactly.
And I've been lucky that I was able to actually do a lot of voice work and motion capture, so it doesn't matter what I look like or what my ethnicity is. Mind you, I do get a lot of Asian characters in video games and stuff like that, but that's just part of the...
I mean, it's still they're not asking you to put on an accent.
Sometimes they do. Sometimes a character comes directly from that country, and it makes sense in that in that way. But sometimes it just doesn't make sense. And I've had auditions where they really wanted a Cantonese accent, and I didn't want to do it. So I'll do one take without the accent just to show them that, hey, it's possible to be a good character without the accent. And then they'll be like, yeah, that was great. Can you do the accent? It's like, oh, okay, I'll just do it. At this point, I don't want the role anymore. So I'll just do it to leave. If I get it, sure, whatever, but I'm not going to wait for it,
I find it sometimes, difficult to deal with that responsibility of being like, oh, I kind of need to represent, but, and, I think every human being is in that situation, even with, climate change and things like that, where you have your values, but you also need to just like live an everyday life and pay your bills. And I read a lot of scripts and I have a lot of information about what goes on in the decision making, and have read scripts where, the way they describe characters of other ethnicities is just borderline racist or sometimes racist. And, eventually when it's the working script, it's not racist, maybe not as racist anymore, but it's always full of stereotypes.
And I think, something that I saw online recently, I think it was Denzel Washington who was saying, someone asking him a question of why does it take a black director to direct a black movie, and Denzel said something that I thought was really interesting, is because it's not about color, it's about culture, right? So when you're directing let's say it's an Asian director who's directing an Asian movie, everyone on set who is Asian can understand culturally all the things that other people don't understand.
Right.
For example, like the childhood, the Asians' parents that are very strict, and what people eat, and those things are very
how, like eating rice with a spoon.
Yeah, like even just take your shoes off, you can go in the house.
Okay, I thought everyone did that. I didn't
but they
realize.
They don't. A lot of people don't do that, and even just how we
how we sit.
Yeah, how we sit, how we talk, how we how we behave when it's a family gathering or stuff like that. And someone who's not Asian can still direct the movie, but it won't have that aspect of it. And then audiences who are Asian will go watch the movie, and they won't necessarily. I mean, I'm sure
it won't feel right.
Exactly, it'll still feel like a movie they're watching. It might be still entertaining, but it won't connect with them. All that to say that it's important to have diversity in the creative part of it, not just the cast. It's like you need to have writers that are diverse and directors and, you know, people like that who make the characters.
That brings me to like the best television show of all time.
Here we go. Can't wait. I can't wait for you to name what the best
It's right next to Mr. Robot and Série Noire. Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Okay, yes, that is the right answer. It's like the perfect show, right?
It's a dessin animé. It's an
Yes.
animated show, and you know that's written by American men, like non-Asian people. They look like, no, not they look like, but like by their name, it seems like they're not necessarily. Their last name sounds ethnic, but they don't sound Asian. How do you feel about that? Because Avatar: The Last Airbender has been like Asians love that show.
Yeah. It's a fictional world, right? So, yeah, sure. I think if it was set in Asia, I think that would be weird. But because it's set in a fictional world and it's heavily inspired by Asian culture and doing it in a way that's respectful and actually really cool, right? I think Asians love that because, like, oh, they took the cool parts of our culture and made something amazing. Also, the story and the characters are just so cool.
I actually watched an episode yesterday.
Which one?
To prepare for your interview. I don't know.
Which episode was
It's
it?
not really preparing for the interview.
No, I think you were just watching Avatar.
I was just watching Avatar. I watched the one in which Sokka meets his master and he learns sword fighting.
The Sword Master.
Yeah.
Yes. Master Piandao.
Oh my god.
See? I know my stuff.
You've been okay. For how long have you been doing martial arts?
I started learning martial arts when I was 4 years old
Okay.
with my dad and my uncle. And then I started doing Shaolin Kung Fu shortly after that. And then I stopped for a while. But then I started contemporary wushu. And then I went to China to train at the temple for a bit. And then I came back and then I started getting more into stunts and teaching actors Kung Fu and slowly learning that acting is a possibility. So martial arts has always been there. And so I've always also loved watching Kung Fu movies and martial arts movies and learning filmmaking in that way without knowing it. Learning fight choreography, learning how to perform the fight scenes just by watching, you know, Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, the cliche names that everyone drops. Jet Li, Donnie Yen,
Yeah.
Sammo Hung. I can go on forever, but
So those were people that you looked up to.
yeah, I think my favorite one was always Jackie Chan.
Okay.
I think the first ever movie I ever seen of him was The First Drunken Master. As far at least in my memory, that was the first time that I recognized who Jackie Chan was, because my dad said, "This is Jackie Chan, and he's funny." Like, okay, cool. But why is he acting like this? Like, oh, it's because he drinks alcohol. And it's like, I want to drink alcohol too. He's like, no, that's not how that works.
You're only 5.
Yes.
I actually grew up on a lot of action movies as well. My youngest uncle used to bring my sister and I to watch all the Jackie Chan. Jet Li was a bit later, but it was...
Donnie Yen is like, he's the popular, like, athletic Asian guy right now. And
But how do you know what... Are you on blogs?
oh yeah, I have
Okay.
I have a tracker of Asian interests. No, I'm kidding. I don't know. I'm just like comments, people loving, you know, the movies for that reason. That's what a theory of mine is like there's always going to be like ups and downs of trends,
Yeah.
and some things will come back, some things will. It's always like a circular thing.
It just sucks that we're part of trends. I mean...
Yeah. Well, that's also like the business of what sells, you know. Even in not just action movies, but the type of action that people make, the trend will change. So when Ip Man, the first Ip Man came out, everyone was doing Wing Chun movies.
Okay.
When Ong Bak came out, have you seen Ong Bak?
Yes.
So everyone was doing Muay Thai in their movies, and MMA became very
Yeah,
popular.
that was crazy.
Ong Bak was crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy.
No,
Yeah,
honestly,
it was crazy.
that was crazy. It's a crazy movie.
Yeah, and it was new at the time. No one's seen someone doing what Tony Jaa was doing. Like, people were losing their shits. Like, it was crazy.
I think I watched it with my parents.
Really?
Yeah, like I think we rented the movie.
Remember when you
and-
can rent movies? That was cool.
Yeah, I feel like we rented the DVD and
Yeah, Blockbuster was still a thing.
I have to watch that movie again.
The thing, you know, Ong Bak was great. They tried to do Ong Bak 2 and 3, but it was completely different. They just named it Ong Bak 2 because it wasn't even set in modern times. It was set in like in the period times of Thailand. So it was completely different. But all that to say is that trends, like in action films, like the styles, like MMA became very popular. So a lot of people started doing jujitsu stuff, and Donnie Yen did a really good jujitsu fight scene in a movie called Flashpoint, and that became like, that's probably even today the best jujitsu fight scene, grappling.
So you think that Asian culture in North America anyways is always going to be about trends?
I think that's a thing, like even within having Asian performers as a trend, in that there's going to be something about Asian culture that is a trend, in my opinion.
Okay.
And I think that, if you know what's going to happen, then maybe you can try to jump on that before it becomes played out. But I don't know. It's hard to tell because there's so many Asian cultures, so many Asian trends, so many different types of action.
Right.
And now that, there's like a lot of CGI, so martial artists are less needed in a way, even though it's always good to have someone who can actually move, or train them, like Keanu Reeves in The Matrix and stuff like that. And even Keanu Reeves, like
his grandma's Asian. He has an Asian grandma.
Yeah, but also his type of action is now the trend, like the gun style.
John Wick,
the close quarter gun fu type thing. It's like a really popular style now. Everyone wants to do that. So you never know what's going to come up. So it's good to have that knowledge of, I can do anything. And then hopefully as, a fight choreographer or a performer, you can pioneer something that, because you always remember the first one.
You mentioned something earlier about Asians and our self-esteem.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you agree to a certain extent that most Asian people, at least like me as a kid when I grew up, I had very low self-esteem. And my parents don't help that at all. Like they don't try to boost my self-esteem in any way. And if anything, and it's not their fault, they mean well, like they just unknowingly destroy my self-esteem no matter what.
Even today?
Yes.
Okay.
Even today, because I'm an actor and I'm sure there are moments where they're very proud and they're very, supportive still, but in their own way, and I don't know if all Asian parents are this way, but certainly mine are, they will be very condescending even if they're giving support or compliments.
Oh, okay.
There's always a but. So it's like, it's great that you got that gig, but do you have something else after lined up? It's like, no, I don't. Oh, you're right, I don't have that. So it's like, to me, it's like that now, but it's always been like that since I was a kid.
Right. I find it hard to, because we grew up in the area of Montreal with North American pop culture and television show, and so had we grown up in Asia, it probably wouldn't have had the same effect. But here, we see our friends' parents, and then parents in television shows, and it's like, oh, that's nice.
Wouldn't that be nice? That'd be nice to have dessert. What's dessert? We never have dessert. Did you ever have dessert?
Just cut fruit.
On TV, and all my friends, they always have like ice cream and cake and stuff.
But you know what? I'm still not a fan of dessert today.
I just would like to have the option of having dessert. It'd be nice if my mom had like, hey, by the way, there's cake in the fridge if you guys want. Like,
if there's only a 50% chance of you eating it or not, why should she fucking make cake for you?
Because I'm gonna eat it. My sister and I would destroy that cake. Not to mention my dad would love to have that cake too. He's just quiet about it.
But yeah, I think the way I was raised and you were raised, it's hard to, where, in Canada, it's always, positive reinforcement and
I never had that.
Telling people we appreciate them, and it's like, but that doesn't work in my family. What the
exactly.
Fuck?
I don't understand. And it's.
Is it because they don't love me?
But that's the thought. Yes,
yeah.
I and obviously they do love you, right?
Of course, but just when you're a kid, you. There's a part of me that thought that my parents didn't love me. No, that's not true. I always knew that they loved me, but that they weren't proud of me, that they didn't love me for who I was, that, yeah, it just felt like, oh, they're not supportive anyways. And
Yeah,
they,
I have
they
that
might
same
think,
feeling.
they might think that they are, but in a different way.
And I've never actually addressed this to them because, I'm sure if we sat down and talked, which would be the most awkward thing ever, just to sit down and talk to your Asian parents is like already really hard. And I don't know if you experience the same thing, but apparently it's a thing, and this certainly applies for me. You don't say I love you in the family that much.
We don't say it.
No, exactly. And it's something that, other families, my friends, they say all the time to each other. And it's like, if you don't say it, like, do you feel it? You know what I mean? Like, it's weird because there's so many restrictions too. Like, and as a kid, you think restrictions are punishments, right? So like, oh, can I go sleep over at my friend's house? No. Oh, okay. Can I go to my friend's house? No. Can I go to the park by yourself? Are you crazy? But no, I'm not by myself. I'm with friends. Where are their parents? Like at home. No, then you're not going. Like, what? So I can't do anything. All I can do is just, practice Kung Fu and do my homework.
It's funny because I grew up on the same street as another Cambodian family. And one of the children is my age, Monica. And
shout out to Monica.
Shout out to Monica, who's still my friend. I love you. Her family is nothing like the Asian stereotype. Really? They're really close to their Chinese and Cambodian culture and heritage. And she has a really good relationship with her parents. They have always supported her. They told her she could go into arts, which she didn't. But that's like a huge deal.
That is a huge deal.
To have your parent just come tell you, hey, if you want to go into arts, you can.
It's crazy that they approached her about it.
Exactly.
And not that she had to confess to it.
No, because she was that good. But she totally did something else because she wanted to keep that as a safe, non-pressure thing that she did. But her dad would, come in her room and really explain things to her, why things were right or wrong,
right,
and how it made people feel, how it made... Like, he really instilled in her this emotional intelligence, that vocabulary that's been there even when she was too young to understand. Like, he really taught her that. But emotional intelligence is like something that we have not learned at all at home.
Not at home, definitely not.
How did we learn this?
I think through experience and issues and obstacles, I think.
Okay, I'm going to take back what I said. We didn't learn how to communicate, but I think I definitely learned from just the hardship of seeing my parents and being just putting myself in their shoes. And I always understood why they were doing the things they were doing. So like, I didn't hate them for it. So I think in a way that was really mature.
Yeah, it is.
But the communication part is like zero. I had to do a year of therapy for that.
Really? I haven't done any therapy, and I know for a fact that I've had a really bad communication issues with them. And a lot of times it's just...
Even in your friendships and other relationships?
With my parents, I mean.
Okay.
My mom, especially. I love my mom. She loves me, but it's very hard for her to understand that the way she shows affection is basically lecturing and so there's always something I can do better, right? So there's never a moment where it's just can't you just be proud and appreciate this? And that for sure affects your self-esteem as a kid, obviously. So and I got bullied a lot too at school. And it got really bad where every time I would take the school bus, I got beat up on the school bus every day. My mom had to basically drive me to school every day because otherwise I would get hurt all the time. And see, obviously she loves me, she does that, but it's like, like there's still like a resentment there or something, like something that she can lecture me about that. So it's hard to gain that self-esteem if you're not, being pushed to know that what you're doing is not your fault, Like, I'm getting beat up, it's not my fault that
No.
Like, if I defend myself and beat up other kids, then I'm also at fault for doing that. So do I just take the beating? Like, what do I do?
Yeah, it's hard to just figure out where to exist.
Yeah.
just in general,
Yeah.
as an adult and as you know, and when we're kids, it's just like we need information about where we're supposed to be, like who we're supposed to be. And as adults, you know, I've noticed that one of the things that don't help us in our success in terms of career-wise is the fact that we don't take any space.
You mean like you don't you don't appreciate your victories, and
we're always toning down.
You don't celebrate your achievements.
Yeah, we're always toning down our achievements.
Yeah, for sure.
Or just not sharing them at all.
Yeah, that is very... I tend to do that a lot too, yeah.
And, you know, like even on social media, I mean, you must have, you know, hundreds or maybe over 1,000 people on your Facebook. I think I have about 1,000, and it's because of our working in cinema and film. You kind of like, I need Facebook and I need people to remember me.
Yeah, of course.
Except I'm really not good at that, and they need to.
I'm horrible at that.
But I mean, they should know that I've worked on like a Quebec television series, that I've worked on, I don't know, American production as a decorator.
Yeah.
I don't think that, you know, people actually know what my skill level is.
But you don't post anything about
my work?
Your work? No.
Not really. And I don't post anything about when I travel. Right. And so it's like, but these are things that people value. Yeah. And that would help me be more successful if people admired me in some sort of way. Well, I'm really uncomfortable with that. But it's, on your social media, you don't necessarily post. I mean, you share the videos that you do, but people don't know like that you're an expert in like these types of martial arts. That
I think I feel like the people that know for real, they know, right? Because it's such a big part of my personality. But people that are like colleagues in the industry, they don't know
exactly. So, but for us to be the most successful we can be, they need to know.
They need to know for sure. And like obviously it's weird to talk about, you know, it's hard to talk about yourself when you grew up in a house that is just so like restricting. And
also just even when I would bring my achievements at home, they weren't really proud of them.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I mean, I got so many diploma, you know, those achievement diplomas in high school, because I was the top of my school in certain classes. And so I would get these recognition papers, and they didn't give a shit. Really?
They didn't even, not even for your school stuff?
No.
Because me, on the off chance that I get a good grade on something, it's like a whole new, completely different situation. But then I can't maintain that. So now my mom is like, oh, but you did it last time. Why can't you do it again? And now it's like the whole thing. Now I have to like maintain this level of expectation.
But I mean, there's not that celebratory thing, you know, in the family where you're like, oh yeah, nice. Yeah.
Like they don't hang my drawings on a fridge. You know, as opposed to when I go to my friend's house and it's all like, oh, he got a C and they're hanging his C. Really?
We don't share anything unless it's perfect.
Yeah, it's true. But like nothing is perfect. So
no, so hence you don't share a lot.
Yeah, exactly. That's true.
We shouldn't be afraid to be mediocre. That would just make us normal.
Yeah, I think it's true. I don't often post my achievements or
like what are the soft skills that we don't have, or that we learned or we didn't learn that's not helpful to us as adults?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's been so ingrained, I mean, at least as a martial artist, is to be humble. But being humble is different than just being self-deprecating. I think there's a fine line that you shouldn't talk bad about yourself in order to be humble. You don't have to show off. Actually. You don't have to show off or boast about something, but just this is what I do, this is who I am, and that's it.
And saying that is not necessarily boasting. It's not showing off to just show yourself. But I feel like that's where the
it's hard to see when, because a lot of times some people that I know post stuff and I'm like, well, he's clearly posting this so that people respond to it in a positive way, you know, like
I mean, but of course we all want people to respond,
but like he's clearly bragging about this.
You know, showing yourself is not showing off, so
no.
And so where's But it's like,
Where's the line?
I find Asians are just not showing themselves.
They're not. And that's part of the problem why there's not enough representation. It's because we're afraid to take that space. And I feel like we wait until we're comfortable before we do something. And a lot of the times it's like it's too late by that time, you know?
Yeah.
Like I suffer a lot from imposter syndrome. So like every time I get a gig that's really cool, I always show up and I'm always like, oh man, like why did they cast me? Or, you know, why am I here when they could have gotten whoever else? And why I get to work with this guy or whatever. But like they cast me. So
you deserve to be
yeah,
there.
and I'm here, like it's better that I'm there and I mess up and I don't perform to the level that I thought I was going to perform than I wasn't there at all, right?
Exactly.
So like obviously that's something that I've been working on, but it's always there still. And I'm always paranoid when I do voice work that when the product comes out, they replace me with another voice. And I'm like, I don't know why I have this paranoia, and it doesn't make sense. It's not rational, but I'm always...
Has this happened? Or?
No.
Okay.
It's never happened, but I know that it might happen. Like it's not impossible. So why would I be scared of that, you know?
Yeah. There are these two last questions that I ask everyone.
Oh God. Okay. You're going to compare me to everyone else,
I don't
you?
even know why I'm looking at this. I mean, I should know.
You should know. You should be off book by now.
What do you love the most about yourself?
Oh, well, we just talked about my low self-esteem, and now you're going to...
Exactly. You need to find some equality.
I think I am, and I don't mean this to be bragging or anything.
Oh my God.
But I am fucking hilarious. And I think that was one of my coping mechanisms, is that I'm able to make people laugh, and that I use it a lot. Not only to cheer people up, but to make myself feel and this might be selfish, but it makes me feel good to get a laughing reaction. It's like I'm draining their energy somehow, you know, and I feel stronger in that sense. But, you know, obviously my parents don't think I'm funny, but so to answer your question, I like my ability to write funny things.
Okay. And what would you want to tell your 18-year-old self?
What was I doing when I was 18?
What were you doing?
I was in Cégep, I think. I was playing basketball. I was really about to drop out of Cégep. But no one knew this at the time. I didn't know this at the time. But I would say, I think follow the path that you want to, like you're supposed to follow, because the challenges that you face on that path is challenges that were designed for you. So you have to follow your heart. I was scared to pursue acting because I didn't think it was a realistic goal to have, especially with parents that are very, you know, negative about that career choice or anything artistic. But now I'm doing it and it's fine. Like, sure, there's some nagging sometimes, but I can deal with that. Like, yeah, my dad doesn't have an IMDb page, you know?
You know what? Most people don't know what that is.
I know, but still, it's still cool to have, and my dad doesn't, so take that.
Okay.
No, it's more my mom. My dad is fine with it. My dad's a musician, so he can't talk. But I would say, you know, start that, at least explore that earlier. And don't be afraid to do things. Don't like not do something because you're afraid of failing. Because failing is cool. So don't think that your first attempt this is like I'm monologuing to my 18-year-old self. My 18-year-old self would be like, oh God, look at this middle-aged guy. Just he sounds like
another
my mom.
Middle-aged
He sounds like mom.
Dude, like
why are you sounding like mom? Oh my God, am I like my mom? But that's what I would say. You know, follow your heart. Follow your heart, because that's, if you fail, then that's how you're supposed to learn about things. Just close your eyes and jump into it. Unless you're doing a stunt, then you should not close your eyes and jump, because that's the opposite of what you're supposed to do.
Oh my God, middle-aged Fred is never going to finish this
ever
monologue.
And if you do stunts, just take care of yourself and your body, and you should be okay. And if Laura asks you to be on a podcast, even if you're scared, do it. That's it.
Okay, I was like keeping
I'm done.
silent.
I'm done. Thank you for letting me monologue, but I'm done.
Hey, thanks for coming.
Well, thank you for having me. It was fun. And thank you for giving me water.
It was a really hot day that day, and he was wearing pants. That was a good geek out session. We ended up getting together the following week to watch Ung Bak in my backyard. That tuk-tuk chase scene is ridiculous. Go check out other episodes to hear about Asian Canadian experiences. Thank you for listening to Imperfect Asian. Thank you, Fred, and thank you to my collaborators, Emmanuel Hessler and Shitakon Bakam.
We were talking about Asian stereotypes earlier, and people always ask me, like, yeah, it'd be weird, like, to have an Asian character and you get cast in this Asian character, and of course he knows kung fu and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, but I would love to play a character that knows kung fu. You don't understand. I've been waiting for this. I'm getting older. I need to play a character that knows kung fu. I'm tired of playing characters that are good at science. You know?
And you're super athletic, right? You played basketball.
Well, super athletic. I mean, yes,
No,
because
but you're
the podcast, they can't see me. So, yes, I am so athletic right now.
Fred has
I have like a 10-pack. Oh,
okay, sorry.
8? Let's go with 8. Gosh.
And his pecs are just bulging out of his shirt.
I have to wear 2 shirts just to keep them calm. Like,
or else your nipples just
my nipples are too powerful. We can edit this out, right?